Big Brother, the surveillance police state that watches everything you do and knows everything about you, is here. Your data is not safe. Your home is not safe. Your electronics are not safe. Palantir, the company ran by doomsday accelerationist madman Peter Thiel, is actively creating and pursuing the dystopian future our movies have been warning us about for decades. George Orwell wrote 1984 and warned us. Edward Snowden risked everything to expose it. And now ICE is using it to hunt people down in their homes. It's called ELITE, Enhanced Leads Identification and Targeting for Enforcement. And it's a Palantir-built surveillance app that pulls your medical records, your utility bills, your DMV data, your credit checks, and builds a complete dossier on you with a confidence score on where you live. ICE agents draw shapes around neighborhoods like they're playing a fucking video game, and the app tells them how many people they can arrest in that area. This is mass surveillance. This is Big Brother. This is exactly what Edward Snowden went into exile to warn us about. And now it's being weaponized by ICE to conduct dragnet raids on American neighborhoods. And while we're talking about government overreach and stolen data, we're going to talk about DOGE, Elon Musk's little efficiency project, because they just got caught stealing Social Security data, putting it on an unauthorized private server, and handing it over to political groups trying to overturn election results. Let me explain exactly what ELITE does, because this is some dystopian nightmare shit. Palantir, a company started with CIA money, built an app for ICE that creates a digital map of America populated with deportation targets. When an agent opens the app, they see people's names, photos, dates of birth, and a confidence score from 0 to 100 on how certain the system is about their current address. And where does this data come from? The Department of Health and Human Services, which includes Medicaid, your utility companies, the DMV, court records, credit bureaus, private data brokers. Every fucking database that they can access gets fed into this system. And here's the part that should terrify every American. ICE agents can draw a shape around any geographic area, a neighborhood, an apartment building, a block, and the app instantly shows them every single person in that area who might be a target. It's been compared to using a map app, think Google Maps, to find a coffee shop. Except instead of finding coffee, they're finding people to arrest in mass dragnet operations. During sworn testimony in an Oregon raid case, an ICE agent admitted they use ELITE to find target-rich locations. That's what they call it, target-rich, like they're planning a military strike on American neighborhoods. But it gets worse, because ELITE doesn't just tell you where someone is right now. It builds a profile of their habits and movements over time. The system aggregates what they call breadcrumbs, utility usage patterns, medical appointments, DMV updates, court dates, to calculate probability scores. If you get a new electric bill and have a recent court date at the same address, the confidence score goes up. The algorithm is literally mapping your life to predict where you'll be. This isn't immigration enforcement. This is mass surveillance infrastructure built to track everyone. And now let me connect this to something that should make your blood run cold. Edward Snowden. In 2013, Snowden leaked classified documents exposing the NSA's mass surveillance programs. He showed us that the government was collecting phone metadata on millions of Americans, that they had programs like Prism to access data from tech companies, that the NSA's goal was literally to collect it all, process it all, exploit it all, and know it all. A federal judge called the NSA's program almost Orwellian and likely unconstitutional. Edward Snowden was charged under the Espionage Act for exposing this. He's been living in exile ever since, living in Russia, because he told Americans that their government was conducting mass warrantless surveillance on its own citizens, that it was spying on its own citizens. And what did we do? We called him a traitor. We charged him with crimes. We forced him into exile for warning us about exactly this kind of surveillance state. And now, 12 years later, ICE is using the exact same mass surveillance techniques, but worse. Because now they're not just collecting metadata, they're building complete dossiers with photos, addresses, confidence scores, and location tracking. They're integrating government databases that were never supposed to be used for law enforcement. They're pulling Medicaid data to hunt people down. This is exactly what Snowden warned us about. This is the surveillance infrastructure that gets built when you let the government collect everything without oversight. And now it's being used by ICE to conduct raids on neighborhoods, to separate families, to terrorize communities. Palantir says, oh, they're just building the tools, they don't decide who gets targeted. Bullshit. The architecture of a surveillance system is policy. When you build an app that lets agents draw shapes around neighborhoods and get instant target lists, you're enabling dragnet operations. When you integrate Medicaid data into a deportation tool, you're punishing people for seeking healthcare. When you build confidence scores and habit tracking, you're creating the infrastructure for a police state. And speaking of government overreach and stolen data, let's talk about what DOGE just did with your Social Security information. The Trump administration just admitted in court filings that Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency accessed Social Security data and shared it through an unauthorized Cloudflare server. They sent confidential information on about 1,000 Americans directly to Steve Davis, one of Musk's top associates. But wait, it gets worse. DOGE employees signed a voter data agreement with an unnamed political advocacy group seeking to overturn election results and find evidence of voter fraud. Read that again. Elon Musk's government efficiency team accessed Americans' Social Security data and gave it to a political group trying to overturn elections. This is a Hatch Act violation. Federal employees cannot engage in political activity, and the Social Security Administration can't even determine what data was shared or if it still exists on that unauthorized server. This is the same pattern: mass surveillance, unauthorized data access, and private servers, political manipulation, zero accountability. Let me be absolutely fucking clear about what's happening here. The government is building a total surveillance state using tools from the NSA playbook that Edward Snowden risked his freedom to expose. ICE is using Palantir's elite program to conduct mass surveillance on neighborhoods, pulling data from Medicaid, utilities, DMV, courts, and private databases to build comprehensive tracking profiles on millions of people. Americans, citizens. And Elon Musk's DOGE team just got caught stealing Social Security data and sharing it with political groups trying to overturn elections. This is fascism. This is Big Brother. This is 1984. George Orwell wrote, "Big Brother is watching you." He warned us about a surveillance state where the government monitors everyone, where your data is used against you, where privacy doesn't exist. Edward Snowden exposed that the government was already doing this, and we exiled him for it. We called him a traitor for telling us the truth about our government's mass surveillance. And now ICE is using that same surveillance infrastructure, but worse, because now it's integrated, AI-powered, and being used for raids that separate children from parents, that flashbang babies, that murder people in camps. This has to stop now. Because here's what happens if we don't stop this. The surveillance expands. More databases get integrated. More agencies get access. And soon, we are living in a country where the government knows everything about everyone. That is a dangerous society that we do not want to be living in. The consequences are unimaginable. With all of the dangers that AI could do with that data and information, it becomes extremely scary to think what an unfettered, unlimited AI system could do with all of that data, especially in the wrong hands. And that is exactly what we're seeing. If you're still here, then like the video, hit the subscribe button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. It tells me that you want more material like this. You're watching the Matt Balla Show. I'll see you on the next one.